Well, welcome once again to National Right to Work headquarters in the Norma Zimdahl studio. I'm Mark Mix, president of the National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation. And there's some important information that workers across the country need to know about, given a dramatic rise in labor disputes across the country. We have new Teamster President Sean O'Brien and new UAW President Shawn Fain talking in a more militant tone about individual workers' rights across the country and about how they're going to handle the more union militancy that's occurring this summer. I mean, we've heard strikes at UPS and strikes at the United Auto Workers against the automotive manufacturers in Michigan. Lots of activity about strikes, potential strikes at Yellow Freight Lines and the Writers Guild and Hollywood actors. And this new militancy is kind of a dramatic increase from what we've seen in the past. But I think it's reflective of the policies of this Biden administration and empowering union officials and granting them more power and more privilege over American workers. And so today, I have Glenn Taubman, who's no stranger to our television studio and talking about the rights of employees. Glenn's been an attorney for 35 plus years at the National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation, representing literally thousands and thousands and thousands of employees over his tenure. And particularly, his expertise centers on the National Labor Relations Board and private sector workers. And so, Glenn, the topic, what I want to talk to you about today is the union discipline. What can happen to a worker who may disagree with the strike calls of Sean O'Brien or Shawn Fain at the United Auto Workers Union? And we've represented a lot of employees who've been punished by the unions that claim to represent them and to be interested in their well-being, but yet when they decide that they're against what the unions are proposing, they try to go back to work for whatever reason. It may be to feed their families or because they disagree, but there's some real danger with that. And I'd like you to talk a little bit about that and how it manifests itself in an employee's life and how we at the foundation have been helping employees like that throughout our tenure.
Sure, Mark. Thanks for letting me be here with you today. So, what every worker needs to know is that they have a right to continue working. Even if the union that runs their workplace calls a strike, it is their individual right to decide that they want to continue working, to feed their families for whatever reason, whether they disagree with the union line. They have the right to continue working. But the rub is this: if you are a member of the union, you have agreed to the union constitution and bylaws, which that is this innocuous little booklet. And you may never have even seen this before. You may never have read this before. But buried in this booklet is requirements that if you are a member, you will go out on strike. And if you don't, they can bring you up on disciplinary charges. They can fine you. They can go into state court and sue you. And some of these fine amounts have been ruinous, in the tens and 30,000s of dollars. So what the National Right to Work wants workers to know is that if you want to go back to work, you can resign your union membership and avoid being fined. And our website contains all kinds of information about that, your right to resign, sample letters, and we encourage you to call us and speak to one of our lawyers to make sure your rights are protected before you return to work.
Yeah. And there's a reality to this, Glenn. Right now, we're still fighting on behalf of some employees at King Soopers, which is a grocery store in Colorado. They had a strike last year, and several employees decided, for whatever reason, they wanted to cross the picket line and continue to work. And I think we just had a settlement on behalf of a worker who was fined $3,700 for working during a strike. And one of the things that happened in this settlement is what is the evidence of whether he resigned appropriately and if the union can continue to litigate against him. But these are legal issues that individual employees are kind of up against the wall. When the union has their lawyers, we feel like employees who may disagree have their lawyers too. Glenn, I think you put it best. I mean, business has their lawyers, unions have their lawyers, and when an employee calls us, the employee has a lawyer too. And protecting your rights in the workplace is something we've been doing since 1968. Glenn, I recall back in, forget what year it would have been, but there was a big Caterpillar strike. And we ended up defending something north of 90 employees that had been fined, $10, $20, $30,000 for crossing the picket line and go to work. And we were successful in exercising and protecting those workers and getting the union to drop the charges. We did that at King Soopers, as I mentioned, in Colorado, Caterpillar. We've had a couple other ones that just recently where we've been representing employees in this regard. But again, to stress the point, and I'd ask you to do it again, and we can show the link up on the screen of where you can find information on the foundation's website to get the information you need to exercise these rights. They have to do it just right.
Right. They do have to do it exactly right. And the key to this is to send some kind of letter, something in writing that says, effective immediately, I resign my membership in the union. That's the key. And when you send that and the union receives it, you are no longer subject to their fines and their discipline. Unions tell everyone, we're here for the workers, we're here for you, but they never tell you that, oh, by the way, if you don't toe the line, we can fine you and take you to court, ruinous fines, tens of thousands of dollars. And we have successfully defended many people in these cases. So the key is come to us, go to the website. We'll help you find the letter. We'll help you get the letter delivered the right way so that the union cannot say, oh, gee, we never got the mail, we lost the letter, our fax machine wasn't working, our email server was down. So you did not effectively resign, and therefore you're still a member, and therefore we can fine you $10,000 or $30,000. We can help you with that, and the key is to exercise your rights in advance properly, because once you do that, they have no power to fine or discipline anybody.
And that's really important. And Glenn, you and I were talking before we sat down here in the studio about Yellow Freight. This is another Teamster represented company, or the employees are represented by the Teamsters. And we have Sean O'Brien literally saying that he's going to put them out of business, that 22,000 unionized jobs are going to be lost because the company won't knuckle under the Teamsters' demands. In fact, the lawyer for one of the local unions in the Teamster outfit said, if you can't afford the labor cost, then get the F out of the business. I mean, that's the attitude that this new union leadership has regarding your rights, your privileges, and your livelihood in the workplace. And the Legal Defense Foundation has been defending workers, as I mentioned, since 1968. We'll continue to do that. And all you've got to do is pick up the phone and talk to one of our 20 lawyers, including Glenn on that list. Or you can go to the website and get the information that is needed to exercise your rights. And we're certainly willing to help and want to help. Glenn, what about this new union militancy? What are we seeing here? Right.
We're seeing this push to get people to walk off their jobs, to shut down the economy, to shut down their companies. As Mark said, in the Yellow Freight is a great example. The unions don't care if they force companies out of business because that helps their monopoly power at other companies, right? So if a freight company goes out of business, well, then maybe more business will shift to unionized companies. So they're not looking out for the worker. They're looking out for their political and economic agenda and their power. But the workers are the ones with the power. And if they resign, if they try to do a decertification, if they exercise their rights, we can help them with that. And that's the power that the workers have over the unions.
Yeah. So Glenn, talk to us a little bit more about the mechanics, about how an employee can use us or use the law to exercise their rights when forced with the situation of making the choice of whether to walk a picket line or go to work.
Right. Well, that's a great question, Mark, because of course this becomes complicated like so many things in labor law, unions and the National Labor Relations Board, and everyone makes all of this complicated, but it's not. If you come to us, we can help with the resignation process. And the process is very simple. You can find a lot of this on our website, but we encourage you to call us and talk to our lawyers. Basically, the employee just has to write a letter, something in writing that says, effective immediately, I resign my membership in the union. And they have to get that in the hands of the union. We encourage people to do this in as many ways as possible. If you write this letter, we encourage you to mail it, to fax it, to FedEx it, to put it in a fax machine, to email it, because that way you have maximum protection, because you'll be able to prove that the union actually received the letter. And once they receive the letter, you are no longer a member and you are no longer subject to their fines and discipline. And that's the key. That's what we want workers to know, that this is your individual choice. And if you're going to make that choice, you should be protected and not be subject to union fines and discipline. And so many times we find that workers had no idea of these issues, no idea of that this union constitution contains all kinds of stipulations about trials and fines and discipline. Workers have no idea. The union comes along and says, hey, we represent you, we're your friend, we help you. But they don't tell you the fine print that's in these constitutions. So you can come to us and we will help you with this process and make sure that you get out effectively. And when you return to work, you will not be subject to fines and discipline.
Well, Glenn, thanks. Appreciate giving that update and information. And I know that you and our other lawyers are available and ready to help workers answer questions that they might have about their workplace rights. And so from the National Right to Work headquarters here in Springfield, Virginia, it's good to talk with you again. Thanks to all of you who support our work and make this work possible. Glenn, thank you for showing up again in our studio and talking about these important issues and these important employee rights. Mark Mix from the National Right to Work Foundation, thanks for tuning in.